Hi, welcome to the sixth Net That Hall Compass show of the 21-22 season. In this Meet the Manager special interview, and Hibbo, both Fantasy Football Hub writers, are joined by the ultimate writer of them all, Big Man Bakar, the master threader and stat guru. How are you, Bakar?
Thanks for having me, Nima. It means a lot to be here on at that hall. I've had a good game week. I got 59 points this week, but I'm looking forward in the international break now, and I look forward to chatting with you guys about my play style and the season in general.
Sounds good. Hibbo, how are you doing? I want to welcome you in as well.
Doing good, doing good. I think 68 points this week, sitting around 137,000. So decent enough start, but not as good as you.
Yeah, no, I got 68 points too, but I think I'm sitting at about 11k rank, which is the highest I've been in 9 seasons at this stage in a season. Normally I'm in the couple million or 1 million. But yeah, let's see. Big things this year, hopefully. Triple digit finish I'm chasing. And who better to talk to about a triple digit finish than Bakar, who obviously came fourth a few seasons back, as we all famously recall. So that must have been a crazy year, Bakar, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it was almost surreal, if I'm being honest. And now that I think of it, it just feels like it's never going to happen again. It was a once in a million sort of uh, thing to happen. And now, I mean, I just cherish it. Just the very fact that I was in with the chance of winning the whole thing is absolutely crazy. And I have very fond memories of that season, honestly.
I love that. I think we're going to definitely get into more detail about hopefully some decisions you may remember closely that year and how it felt at the time. So we're going to direct kind of second-hand story of what went down that year. It will be very
Sure.
fascinating. I guess just to kind of get started as well, we'll get a bit of housekeeping out of the way. So I'm just going to quickly introduce it for the podcast listeners as well. So we're really proud to announce that we're actually in the finalists now for the Football Content Awards. We're in the best video category for fantasy football, and there's 9 other kind of bigger YouTube accounts, let's just say. So we've just reached 1k subs recently, and we donated to the heartfund.eu on behalf of Christian Eriksen, and we've promised to donate again at 2,000 subs to the Heart charity. And we kind of picked them because there's no operational cost from the donations. It's all done through the field work. So you know that all the money you donate goes straight to helping on the field. So we like that. And at 1,500 subs, I've also promised to dress up as Ali G because so hopefully you'll be there that night to see that outfit. But Pikachu's not coming out tonight. We have another special guest that this is how we met a year ago, and we'll show the shirt later, but it's the Montana shirt. So Club Miami. We'll have a look later. I just want to say, so on the kind of football content awards to wrap that up. So do please have a look in the YouTube and podcast description. There is a link, and that will let you vote for us, Net That Hall, and Best Video. It will let you vote for Bakar and his friends, Pranil and Zoff, who hopefully will also come on in the future. They are in the best podcast category as the FPL Wire. And then obviously we got our friend Surya of the show, all about FPL in best editorial. So we appreciate all the votes, guys. I'm just going to hand over to you, Hibbo, to finish off the housekeeping, and then we'll go straight into it with Bakar, really start to interrogate him about some of the choices he made that season he came fourth.
Yeah, so the Money League code that's on the screen, so it's FG1XMB. A shout out to first place in the league. It's Mohammed Sadiqi from Singapore. He's got 276 points and an OR of 1,637. So first prize is a mystery football shirt box from Shirtlet Box. Second prize is a copy of FPL Obsessed by Matt Whelan. And third prize is premium annual membership to Fantasy Football Fix. So anybody that's had a big score this week, pop it on the live chat. And if you're watching on VOD, pop it on the comments. And any questions that you have for your team going into game week 4 as well, pop them in the comments. We've also recently passed 4,500 downloads on the podcast platforms. So if you're listening to us on Apple, leave us a 5-star review. It's much appreciated. It helps us grow and it costs you nothing.
Nice one. So I guess just before we go straight into it, we will read this out for the kind of podcast listeners, because so for obviously the YouTube viewers and live viewers, you can see the rank history. So we can see you started in 2010 and the 2011 season. So I guess my question for you is, how did you start out playing FPL? Like, what was it? Because for me, that was like a work mini league. How was your first year?
I was introduced to this game by a friend of mine back when I was in grade 6 or 7. I was extremely young at that point, and I was practically a kid. And I and he was like, there's this game. You watch the Premier League. Well, why let's play this game regarding fantasy football. It's officially affiliated with the Premier League. So why don't you play with me? I was like, okay, let's start playing. But even then, when I started playing, I think I had another account in like 2007 8. I think I probably started in 7 or 8. um it was basically me being a casual. And for 4 to 5 seasons, I was the kind of player who occasionally forgot to make transfers, who'd who'd sort of make transfers every 3 to 4 weeks, and occasionally forget about his team for practically a month. um, but having said that, I was still watching the Premier League. It was just that I wasn't sort of hooked to FPL as I am right now. This obsession of mine with this beautiful game started in 2012, I think, or 2011. I think the season I finished 71,500. I think that was my first proper season in the game, when I sort of got into statistics and started reading up on some content. Perhaps not in as much detail as I go to these days, but still, it was it was still, you could classify me as being somewhere in between being a casual and being a very hardcore player. So I'd call myself a semi casual in those years. But then after 2012, I really got into it, and I basically became an absolute FPL addict, a very, very avid enthusiast. You can call me
That's how
that.
we met, right? Because the rest is history. I remember the
Exactly.
first time we met, it was such a funny moment, Bakar. I think I must have read one of your threads, and this is just to talk about how far you've come as well. So, like, I remember it was last season, the end of the season. You had about 15K followers at the time. Tonight, this is the celebration stream
Wow.
live on the day that it's happened of the 70K follower milestone. So you've gone from the 15K followers to 70K followers from end of 2019-20 season to start of this 21-22 season. Just over like a year and a few months, maybe. Like, that's insane growth, right, Hibbo?
I actually can't believe that.
It's nuts, right? So impressive. And that kind of goes to testament of, I guess, your writing style, which we will get into later, because we'll ask you a little about how you got into writing the content too. But it is interesting
Sure.
to hear about those early years. I'm going to ask you a little bit about your kind of play style and what that's like. But just before that, again, I forgot to read out for the podcast listeners your ranks. So in that year you started, as you say, 2010, you came about 300K, I think. You know, as you say, it wasn't kind of when you were hooked yet, semi-casual. 2011, you came 71K, you started to like the game then. And 2012, when you came 20K, it became serious. Since
Yep.
then, you've not finished below 170K in like 8 years, so the consistency is unreal. So you've only got that one rank that's 300K, and every other rank in like 11 seasons is nearly 100K. So it's pretty impressive stuff. And then there's a fourth position. So we will ask about that in 2014-15, and that is a bit crazy. I know that's insane. I guess what I want to ask is, what is your general kind of play style? And is it aggressive? Like, do you take a lot of points hits, or are you more of like a method guy? Like, do you have a plan? Do you have 8 weeks ahead? Are you always being patient? It'll be interesting to hear what kind of manager you would kind of consider yourself.
I think you could classify me as being somewhere in between a risk averse and a maverick manager. So I'd call myself risk neutral. There are times when I play safe. Most of the time, so you could sort of classify me as being a safe manager. But there are times, but I pick and choose my moments to attack. There will be moments where um, I make sort of ballsy moves, going and chasing for the upside. But more often than not, I like playing safe, and I usually stick to the template because I'm a firm believer of the fact that the template is the template for a reason. Because all those players that the Twitter community in particular picks are actually very, very shrewd picks, and every pick has some sort of merit attached to it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we're seeing some comments in the live chat as well. Like, so we've got Bag and Boy saying that he's being doing the boring template as espoused by Abdul. So another friend of the show, FPL Salah, who was here on an episode a few weeks ago. apparently me and him have a very similar style. I feel like you're a bit more adventurous than I am. That's what I would take from this conversation. You're a
Slightly
patient
more,
manager, but
just
you take
slightly
more
more.
hits, just a few more hits. So, do you recall
Yeah.
how many hits you took last season by any chance, off the top of your head?
I don't have a clue. I'd probably guess around 10 to 12.
Okay, fine. Yeah, so I think it was 8, a minus 48 or something.
Yeah,
No,
I
that
think
doesn't
it was
sound right
10.
at all.
I
No, it
think
does.
10 to
8 times
12.
4. 32, sorry, 32. Okay, I
Yeah,
took a
I
minus
think 10 to
42, I
12.
think.
I took like
Okay.
minus
Well,
64 or
that's
something,
something.
I think.
64 points, is that?
That's like
That's crazy, and it's something I want to reduce this year because it's obviously too many, like, you know, but
So yeah, when we spoke to Tom Stevenson, Bakar, he was kind of saying he only really seems to take 4 to 5 hits a season. And as you say, I feel like we're all trying to get better at taking less hits. So I do agree that maybe, especially at the start of the season, that template, it is correct for a reason. And I know Trigger, who's here as well, he obviously says that all the teams are pretty much the same at the moment. And I did listen to his pod. I really enjoyed the recent one. And he was also saying there that he's now not going to have a differential team. So he is going to just like stay with the pack at 60K and like try to now slowly make the gains to get to the top, right? So I feel like if you've had a good start, like say most of us this season so far, I'm not like panicking to pull my wild card. And I know that's going to be a topic for tonight as well, because a lot of people are taking hits doing wild cards. So it'll be interesting to hear what we're all planning to do at that stage. But before we do that, I just thought we'll kind of go off the stats and we'll put it back for any live viewers who come later in case they don't know who you are. But I think as a writer, you're more famous than even your FPL history. But we still have to discuss the fourth rank. So I think we'll hand over to Hibbo and we'll go to a fireside chat now, as we were saying. So let us just
yeah,
ask you one
just a
more
point
quick
I'd like to
question.
make, Nima, before we head off, is the fact that I distinctly remember in the 2014-15 season when I finished fourth, I took 5 hits in total, and that is usually um, quite fewer than I usually take. So that was one thing that I was doing differently, or maybe it happened by chance. I'm not sure, because I remember being in a lot of situations that season where I had 2 free transfers and I had little to nothing to do, and they were I even remember I wasted a transfer that season.
right.
Yeah. So
You burnt one.
I
Wow, I don't think
was
I've ever done that. Wow.
yeah.
That
So
actually
that
that actually
Good time to go to
it
50
gains you rank.
viewers.
It gains you rank for another transfer.
Yeah, it
yeah.
gains you a
So
rank.
that's exactly what happened that season, and it wasn't as if I was doing it subconsciously. It was just that every week, most of the weeks, I didn't really know what to do, and I just took 5 hits that season. The
Crazy.
team was like just performing superbly well, and it was just it was almost if that whatever transfer I was making was working like crazy.
I like that. No, that is impressive stuff. I guess Hibbo, I know you wanted to ask a little bit about the stats side. So should we go? We'll take this off so we can all see each other properly now. We'll have a little bit of an informal chat. So let's I guess go into the stats side. What did you want to know, Hibbo? Because I know you've been fascinated and you're a fellow writer of the Hub. Obviously, all three of us met that way. And I like the way we all have very different writing styles, but yours is, I think, the most eloquent, Hibbo.
I
And
don't know.
because is the most impressive, and mine is just like I'm the tag along comedy sidekick of the show.
I don't know. Like what I wanted to ask Bakar, obviously you're very stat heavy in your analysis. Like, what's your process in terms of watching games? Do you watch like many full games, or do you catch up and say like highlight programs? Or
I um I usually watch 3 to 4 games live every weekend. Um, Other than that, I make sure to tune into match of the day on Sunday morning when I wake up. That's the first thing I download. Other than that, I check the statistics of every game so that I have an idea of how teams are performing, how players are doing every weekend, and that's a habit that I have. So I don't necessarily watch all the games, but I make sure to at least catch the highlights of the games that I miss.
Wait, let me just put this up. So something else I like to do, and normally I've done it a lot sooner than 14 minutes into the show, is say hi to all the guests who've come in and say welcome and start to interact with them too. We'll bring them into the conversation, Bakar, but I've been keeping you to myself backstage. We were late on air. I've been keeping you on air to ourselves as well, but we'll get through our kind of questions, and at some point in the stream, we'll open up to the Twitter questions, but it looks like we'll be answering mainly live questions tonight as opposed to all the
Sure.
ones from Twitter, because there's a lot of friends to it. So just before we move on, Laterizer, your friend, says Bakar's got no time on weekends in response to the stats. But we're not going to go
I
into
thought
that
he'd
today
spare
while he's
me.
in the
I
chats.
thought he'd spare me. This week was supposed to be my week off. It was supposed to be an international break, but he's chased me all the way down to net that hall, and I have nowhere to go. I have nowhere to
What
hide.
time is it? What time is it over there? Do you know? Is it 1:30 or?
It's 12:54. Yeah,
Oh,
almost
for
1
you.
a.m. Yeah,
Okay.
and over there in India, it's 1:30. Yeah,
Oh wow. Okay. So they're awake, waiting for you like vultures.
absolutely. He's willing. He's just absolutely looking to pounce on me, and every opportunity he gets, he doesn't let go.
He's coming on to the show next, as we say, so it will be funny to hear his take on the event. As we say, at that hall, we don't really have time for beef. So if you don't like beef and you like FBL, come and net that hall with us. And I know you're in our mini league, because so looking
Yep.
to compete with you there. It's going to be fun. Should we? I guess from my perspective, what I wanted to ask you, because who's your most trusted kind of content source? So, and what allows you to stay objective given the volume of info there is in the kind of community these days, right? There's almost like a saturation of content. So, who do you believe? Who do you trust? How do you do this research?
This is a very interesting question. I mean, there's so many articles, so many threads. All over social media, not just social media. There's so many fancy football websites now that you're actually spoiled for choice. And it's very important to sort of pick and choose correctly. I usually what I do is I usually do my own research, as I spoke about at the start of every Sunday, every Monday. I look up the numbers of the games that have just gone by. Other than that, I usually read articles, usually on Fantasy Football Hub and on Scout. Those are the two sort of main go-to data sources for me. I use the Opta tools religiously. Checking the numbers, XG, big chances, shots inside the box, all those kind of things, and then I make my own sort of. I deduce my own analysis on the basis of what I see. For example, when I see a team conceding lots of big chances, and a player who is to come up against them in a coming fixture, if he is posting good numbers in terms of big chances as well, then I sort of deduce that this is a good player to get in. So that's usually how my work operates.
Okay, that's really interesting. In terms of bandwagons, something I write about obviously for Hub is the transfer trends, and I look at what's going on in which players are being sold into which players as their replacement, and you see crazy scenes. This week there isn't going to be that section, obviously, because it's a Meet the Manager special with you, but I rage. Like some of the moves you see, we were seeing in the chat earlier, they were saying if you're leading, if you're ahead, you don't really need to take the hits. Like you don't need to be panicking and being aggressive. You can just play it safe and stay at the top where you already are and slowly climb, I guess. So it is interesting though, as you get towards later in the season, whether you then take a few more risks to
Absolutely,
push on and try to
absolutely.
win.
And this sort of excitement which you speak about, I was in a similar phase last week when before the start of Gameweek 3, I was very sort of tempted to wildcard, um, and I had this certain urge to bring Kane in as a captain, and I thought I could possibly chase a decent amount of upside if I made that move, and if I wildcard this week. Um, but then again, I mean, I speak to a few people, including my fellow podcasters, Late Riser and Zoff, and they usually keep me sane. So both of them are actually very good very good mentors for me when it comes to the game. So I get to learn a lot from them. And they sort of usually keep me in check whenever I'm considering something crazy. It's not just the fact that I do my research and my articles. The help that they give me is absolutely immense as well, and I truly value it.
I think that is an interesting moment, actually, just to mention. Obviously, you guys have met, and they're from India, you're from Pakistan, and I know you said a lot of viewers always assumed you were just kind of from India, right? But they
Yes,
then
it's a
realize
very
eventually, long term,
very common misconception.
Yeah, but it's amazing how you guys met through that and like managed to make a show through this common interest of FPL, and you may not have kind of met otherwise in other circumstances. So it's
Yeah,
crazy how FPL brings us all together. And I think overall the positives of this community outweigh some of the negatives we may be seeing like every once in a
uh,
while, normally international breaks.
absolutely. I
Yeah,
absolutely wholeheartedly agree with whatever you're saying.
But
I'm
that
glad.
that that connection kind of came about through like the Scout message board, isn't that right?
Me's often Pranil.
Yeah, you use often Pranell.
Funnily enough, Hibbo, we were in a WhatsApp group since
Cons.
since 2016, I think, and I sort of put that group together like 4 to 5 years ago, and I assembled people from Scout, because I thought WhatsApp was a good medium for people who wanted to talk about fantasy football, and these guys were keen to join. So yes, that's where I got the got affiliated with them, and ever since they've been really good friends of mine. And we have like 35 managers in our group, and we all share great camaraderie. So this chemistry you notice between me, Zoff, and Pranil is actually natural because of the fact that we've been friends for a long time now.
Yeah, I think Jossie's on that group, isn't he? John Lambert.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
in there definitely.
he's
All
from the
the
Hull.
OGs. Funny how we met, Bakar. The
Yeah.
shirt today tells the tale. Now that we hit 60 viewers, there's no Pikachu today, but I will. I've confessed it enough times recently, but if you look at my Twitter profile picture on FPL Nima, I'm kind of wearing the ode to my boy Montana. And I don't know if this mirrors when I turn up, but it's the Club Miami Football Association. So nice dress shirt, Bakar. I know you like that. We'll talk about your shirts behind you in a moment, but I hope the lads can see the reveal. I've not said who I am, but now I don't know. Hopefully, it's not backwards and it shows up correctly on the video. But I want to ask you because so you've got these shirts behind you, and this is a question that I didn't even tell you was going to come because I wanted to catch your real reaction. So this is an early
Sure.
one from Gabe, who's obviously one of the co-hosts of the show, so at FPL
Yeah.
Lens, and he wanted to ask about your Grealish and Sun shirt. He said most people have memorabilia because of like a big emotional connection. And I guess what do those jerseys behind you represent for you, big man?
I'll be honest. I don't have any sort of emotional connection with any of the shirts. It's just the fact that I am just a huge Premier League fan. Even as I said earlier, even when I was not playing FPL, I used to watch a lot of Premier League games, even though the useless ones. For example, Burnley, Blackburn, or those sort of games, which sane people would have little to no interest in. So I've grown up watching the Premier League over the years, and I sort of like assembling these shirts, and I have a lot of shirts over the seasons from different players, particularly from the lesser teams. I don't usually like buying the premium shirts because they're readily available, and I want to be a bit different. So I usually buy the shirts which are a bit more hipster, if I may call them. So that's why. I mean, every year I buy
I
around
was gonna say, so you said the lesser shirts.
usually,
So
yeah.
Spurs and Villa, the lesser shirts, but now you called them hipster in case some of the viewers tonight are hipsters.
Yeah, I hope they don't take offense. I mean, so yeah, usually every year I get around 8 to 10 shirts, and that's how it goes, really.
Sounds good. Okay, I like that. So I've got a lot of Arsenal shirts, and recently I've branched out. So now I've got like a Real Madrid, I've got a Japan national team. I want to get the Venetia one. I've got the Bob Marley Ajax kit this year. I've got this Club Miami, as we said, the Montana shirt, matching my display pic. But it's time to move away from the Arsenal shirts, is all I'm going to say, because there are some questions in a moment that are going to come from the Twitter submitted questions. I think the first one's a very brutal, Bakar, and the fans want to hear your opinion on it. So it's worrying. So I'll kind of wear anything but an Arsenal shirt today because if Spurs and Villa are the less of us as well. Okay, so I'll let you get your last question in, Hibbo, before we go straight to the Twitter questions. And I think I lost connection for a second. It's looking bad.
Yeah, it's kind of going on and off a bit. But no, my question for you, Bakar, is you're obviously you're basically the biggest name in FPL content at the minute. When did you write your first thread? Can you remember your first thread or your first piece of content that kind of maybe launched?
This is a very interesting question, and I'm sure this is a story you'd like to hear. I think I wrote my first article in at some point in 2019. I think it was September or October. I'm not exactly sure about the exact time, but it was somewhere around that period. And I wrote it as a piece on Scout. Sort of, I put it up on Scout, and it was basically made into hot topic. And at that point in time, I was not posting any of my content on Twitter. I mean, I had a few followers. I mean, 600. I'm not exactly sure, 500 because of my rank, but obviously because I was not exactly posting content regularly, those followers weren't growing, and I wasn't too bothered about it because this was sort of a private account and it wasn't just for FPL. So what happened is that I wrote that article on Scout, and I screenshotted it and I posted it on my Twitter. A similar thing happened after a month where I did the exact same thing. I wrote something on Scout, I put it up there on Twitter. Neil Murray, who is one of the household names in FPL, he usually writes some threads, and he's now the maker of the Playmaker app. Exactly. So those articles that I read that I posted on my Twitter from Scout, and he said that you're a very good writer. You should think about writing these threads and these articles in the form of threads. So I was like, oh, sure. I haven't really thought about that. And he said that you should try and do a weekly piece because you're really good at it. At the time I didn't pay him much attention, but I thought of an idea, and I thought this was one thing that was sort of missing in the FPL community, where a preview of every game week statistically was to be made. I noticed there was this niche that I could possibly target in terms of my audience, because at that point in time hardly anyone was writing threads, and nowadays you see a lot of people who are writing and who are writing threads. Every other person you see on Twitter is doing threads. So I thought this possibly could be a niche I could target, and that was it. So that's how it started, and the rest is absolutely history. So I'm truly grateful to Neil for giving me the idea of posting my content in the form of threads.
I'll just ask a quick follow-up question. So do you actually physically write the thread yourself? Because yes. I think writing a thread's kind of tricky, because like whenever I write a thread myself, you have to have paragraphs of like 40 words, because whenever you copy and paste it onto like a tweet, it just takes you hours. Like
it takes me around 20 to 30 minutes to post the whole thing. It takes a while, yes, but that's how I usually do it.
I thought now that you're famous, maybe somebody else did it for you, no?
No, I mean I have a friend who usually helps me out with some of my research, but the whole thing is generally written by myself.
Right.
No, that's impressive stuff. I guess we will go on to the Twitter questions soon, but we're just going to give some transfer updates. So for the podcast listeners to timestamp the episode, we are here on deadline day. The latest is Griezmann to Atletico, loan with buy confirmed from Ramanathan. So we'll hear how the news goes, guys. Keep us up to date. I don't think any of the three of us know what's going on in the deadline world, so let us know in the live chat.
Ronaldo was a big enough transfer. I don't think we'll see bigger than Ronaldo.
Yeah, we've got that to discuss today for the teams. That's going to be a big question for this week, that's for sure. I just want to quickly, again, just show your ranks for anyone who's joined since we first showed it. So this was obviously at the beginning of the show. We're talking about you've been playing for about 11 seasons now. You've only finished outside the top 170k once, and that was your first season. You've come fourth, which is insane. As you say, that's probably a 1 in a million, did you say?
Absolutely. Once in a lifetime, rather.
Once in a lifetime. Yeah, so you're not expecting to go near there again, I see.
Absolutely.
Okay, so on that note, I'm just gonna see if this works, Bakar. So for the celebration for the 70k followers today, I really hope this works. So let's have a look. I uploaded this. I've never tried to play it, and I'm hoping it works. For everyone who doesn't know, this is, I guess, the Bungra celebration. And for the podcast listeners, you're just gonna have to come to YouTube because I can't describe it. Okay, so I danced there, but I'm sure later in the show I'll get you warmed up. That wasn't as bad as my Tom Stevenson moment, which we'll show now as well, where I tried to welcome him to the show 1 minute in before I'd warmed him up like I've warmed you up, and this happened to me. Definitely our most popular member of the Net That Whole crew, and you can definitely be our 5th crewmate now going forward. I've pressed play. Definitely be our 5th crewmate now going forward.
Hello, darkness, my old
So, just while we're here as well, guys, so please do continue. So please do continue to hit like and subscribe. Thank you guys for the self-deprecating humor. But the dancing is gonna come. I'm gonna make you dance because we're gonna dance at one point when we play that clip.
The dance moves are good, hey?
Yeah, they're pretty good. I know, but we won't descend into the questions that Late Riser had, because as we know, this is your 1 week annual leave from the stories about the dating life.
Yep.
So let's go to the Twitter submitted questions. We're 31 minutes in. I reckon we could squeeze an hour out of you. Let's hope that these people keep you sharp as you go late into the night in Pakistan. But it looks like your Indian brothers are staying awake even later than you. So let's see if we can get to 100 live views. If we do, who knows what kind of forfeits I'll pull next time. So first questions, I guess, as I said, the Arsenal-based ones, which are quite embarrassing, are from at FPL Bruno with 00 and at FPL_Akib48. Other than Arsenal, who are the whipping boys this season? And can Arsenal break Derby County's season record for the worst ever season in Premier League history? What do you think?
I'll leave the second question for you to answer, Nima. I'll address the first one. So for me, at this point in time, honestly, I think Norwich and Newcastle are the two teams which really stand out as being the whipping boys, particularly Newcastle. They've conceded the most amount of big chances, and they have the worst XGC after Arsenal. So Arsenal are the worst defensively in all categories. Let's
they make the
let's get that
players
straight.
they've played look better, right? So I think some people you could say they're skewing their data because they're looking at teams that faced Arsenal and they're like, this player has insane stats, but they're not expecting that they're not going to play Arsenal every week. So they've got to like reel it in a bit. Those numbers are inflated.
So Newcastle, their numbers are absolutely abysmal, and this is why I think Ronaldo as a captain. I honestly don't think there's a better fixture on paper right now than Newcastle at home. I don't. I genuinely don't think that's the case. So it's the stage is set for him to perform.
There's a lot of debate about whether he'll start. What do you think? Do you think he'll start?
I mean, obviously, as someone who doesn't own him at the moment, I'm going to wait till all his press conference. But I just don't see why he won't, because I know he hasn't played yet in this season. I mean, he's had a 30-minute sub appearance, but we have international games for Portugal coming up, and let's see if he can get some match fitness behind his belt over the next week or so. But I think he'll be very, very determined to play against Newcastle. And even if he gets, I mean, just a couple of training sessions, I think there's no way Ole can leave him out. I just don't think that's going to be the case. I'd be very surprised if he ends up being benched.
Did you see Ole's quote today as well, where he said, "I've not bought him to be a bench player or something"?
Exactly. I mean, I honestly don't think
I feel like Ole could do it. My view is Ole could be so tactically inept that he will play him first game anyway, because it's Cristiano's team now. He calls the shots. We saw the last tournament, he's there like almost coaching the team in all the huddles. So I do wonder if he's come to take over Ole's job when he retires.
And he's going to be super determined to play. You know, it's there's this romance of him coming back to Old Trafford. I mean, he's not going to come on from the bench. He's going to start. Let's face it. You know, in front of the home fans, he's going to start.
it's the best game for him to start in because it's not like he's going to come and play like a Chelsea or a Man City. Like you would expect him to start against Newcastle, get a goal under his belt, and kind of get the confidence going. So personally, I think it's a no-brainer that he's going to start. If I'm being honest,
I agree.
And
I
then get
completely
subbed in
agree.
the 60th or 70th minute, maybe. But at least he'll.
I don't even think he'll be subbed. I think he'll play 90 minutes nearly every week.
Okay. One thing I will want to say, Hibbo, is I think my signal is bad. So if I suddenly drop off, do take the reins and keep going without me. Last time, Bakar, my internet cut out. And it's the first time it's happened. It's happened twice now in a week. And last time, there's a part of the VOD where you watch back and I disappear and Hibbo looks really quiet and he just looks terrified. It's like he doesn't know what to do. I'm just gone. And I'm hoping this time at least you're here so you can keep him company if I disappear. So guys, if I disappear, I'll keep trying to come back in, but I don't know what's going on. I need to call my internet provider and say, look guys, we've got 1K subs now. You can't be pulling these stunts on me.
Bakar, they were saying I looked like a scared little boy, and it's not really true because I thought my internet died. So like really your internet died, but I thought my internet died, so I was just kind of staring at the screen like a fucking dummy. Like
I can imagine.
It's a brilliant clip. We'll have to make a little snippet of that, and it will be like my awkward tumbleweed moment with Tom. But I did meet Tom in person at Fest, and that was quite a nice one, and we had a few good times. I'm just going to answer. So I don't think anyone's going to break Derby County's season record. So we'll go on to kind of Lens's question, Hibbo, if you want to read it out for the podcast listeners, and we'll alternate, I guess. And we'll do a few of these Twitter questions, and then let's just go to the live viewers, I think, for the most of the show, because there's a lot of you here. There's over 70. Good times. Let's see what we can find out live. No dating life, though. That's the T's and C's. Yeah, no dating life. Not this time.
So this question's from Gabriel. So he's part of the team, obviously, and he's asking which teams for you are statistical head scratchers at the minute.
This is an interesting question to ask. I think Spurs are probably the biggest one, particularly from a defensive point of view. They've conceded the third most amount of shots, and they've kept 3 clean sheets back to back, despite having the very, very poor defensive statistics. They're by far the highest overperforming team in terms of difference between actual and expected goals conceded. So I'd say them from a defensive point of view, and from an attacking point of view, I think it's an absolute no-brainer. It has to be Wolves. So an XG of 5.04, 56 shots, 0 goals. I mean, I need not say anything else, man. I mean, that's self-explanatory. They're just can't score. Honestly, they're just finding ways of not to score when actually they're playing really, really well, and they deserve far more than they've actually got out of their performances.
I just want to say, guys, like if you keep pasting your team, I think people won't respond. So if you ask them once for help, they might help. But it looks like people are asking to stop the spam. So I just need to speak up. Like, please, I think you've been moderated, but don't leave. Come back in 300 seconds. Just please don't spam. We'll get to the live chat.
But like having watched Wolves at the weekend past, they seem to lack a bit of quality. Like Traore, he's a kind of player, he seems to need like kind of 5 and 6 chances, and even then, he's not a great finisher. Trincao had a couple of chances where if he had a bit more composure, I kind of wonder, do they have the composure? Do you know, it's...
I agree. I completely agree. I mean, Traore has never been a good finisher, but he's getting so many chances. He is going to put one away sooner rather than later. Surely, I mean, it's going to happen. It just can't. He can't just keep missing chances for the rest of his life. I find that very, very hard to believe.
What do you guys think about this? I just thought I'd put some live questions as we go about, I guess, similar topics that we're already discussing. So what about Traore kind of being moved to the right when Podence comes back in? They've said for Gabe, because I think at the time, I think, he's asking him live as well. But what do you think, Bakar? I was just trying to think. This was a Twitter question for a second, and I thought, why does he think Gabe is here? But what do you think?
It could be possible. It could be possible. But at the moment, I think he was very complimentary of how the team was performing. So I'd expect a similar team, more or less a similar team, in the next game. And as soon as they start clicking, I mean, I'm sure they're going to be worth looking at. I mean, it's because the underlying numbers are backing them. I mean, in my opinion, the moment Traore or Jimenez or Trincao they score, they become FPL bandwagons. So basically, everyone's waiting for any of them to come good, which is surely a case of sooner rather than later.
No, I think that's pretty impressive. Also, there's some people kind of saying about there's been a new signing made. Some people saying Neto is the answer firstly, I just wanted to say. But then also we've got Gabe saying Huang has been signed to play the Seferovic role. So there's quite a few interesting stuff to come. And I think their stats are quite impressive. It is shocking they've not scored a goal yet. So I'm definitely keeping an eye on them. Jimenez has looked a little bit rusty, I would say. So he was someone I'd eyed up like as a transfer this week. But even with the price drop, with the likes of Ronaldo available, and if DCL is fit, I think those two are the two I'd be looking at personally. I think we've got time to wait and see on the Wolves assets, despite the fixture turn.
I agree.
We got, I guess, here a question as well. This is another one from Nick, so we'll get his question right in there. Let me go back to the slide. So this is going to be a tough one. I think it's going to be difficult for you, Bakar. But so at Nick Triggerlips on Twitter said, you talked about Antonio having fantastic stats, a great home fixture, and yet you captain somebody playing away from home against a solid Wolves side. It fits in perfectly to what you just said about how great Wolves was. So why did you do this?
Because I was being an idiot. He's right. He's absolutely right. I was simply being an idiot. I mean, honestly, I captained Bruno because I thought he'd come good against Wolves. Honestly, I did not expect Wolves to frustrate United to the extent that they did. I mean, I could have sort of foreseen the Antonio Hall coming, but I did not see a Bruno blank coming. That's the way I put it, and the way it turned out actually to lose out on 9 points, in my opinion, turned out to be brutal. And I don't really think that was something I thought that would happen, and I honestly just got it wrong. It was something where I firmly usually believe that I usually trust in captaining the premium players, and I thought I'd go with Bruno. When I was making my team,
the price point gets to me as well sometimes.
Yeah, it gets to me, and even before the start of Gameweek 1, I had penciled in Bruno for captaincy in this fixture. So I wanted to stick to my plan. I didn't really want to change it necessarily, and I thought to myself that, okay, sure, West Ham are playing well. Antonio, Crystal Palace's stats weren't that bad either. I mean, their stats were in fact as good as Wolves were. I mean, they conceded just the one chance over 2 games, and that included a game against Chelsea. So I thought to myself, okay, Antonio is probably going to score again. He's probably going to get 8 to 9 points. Bruno's playing for the better team. He's likely to be on penalties. I think Bruno had slightly more upside, but I'll put my hand up. I just got it wrong. I completely misread the fixture.
No, that is very interesting. I think the penciling it in advance, that's a telling story, because I was in a similar boat. So my bus team, it was Bruno, but then I kind of, like you, I saw everything was in Antonio's favor, and when I told myself that the only reason not to captain him was because I can't recall how often a player has got 3 double-digit hauls in a row, I thought that's not a good enough reason not to captain him. Now I'm playing with like gamblers' fallacies, and I'm just like thinking that there's no way he can do it, but he did it. He got 3 double-digit returns in a row. So I'm glad I didn't panic. But you're right; it was easy to go for the premium price point, despite everything pointing to Antonio. And I think it's quite brave that you're just like, I made a mistake. You don't even try to say that, like, oh, okay, I made the right choice. Because a lot of people, right, they say right decision, wrong outcome. And we also talk about wrong decision, right outcome. And there's a lot of people talking a lot of shit on Twitter and a lot of beef. And we're here just to enjoy FPL with you. So I just want to say, like, people need to relax and just enjoy why we all met, how we all got here, and make the community be the lovely place that we know it can be. And it's good to pass that message on. So Nick, thank you. He did apologize for asking you this question, by the way, Bakar. So he has had a change of heart since submitting it. This is a very quick one from Ray Qureshi as well, another friend of the show. So this was about
I thought his question. I thought his question was perfectly valid. You know,
it is fair enough in the context.
I thought it was perfectly valid. He has no reason to apologize. I mean, it's a lovely gesture on his part, but honestly, there's no reason to do it. It was just, I'll just put my hand up. It was a wrong decision.
No, I like that. So what do you think of this then? So -4 hit. Bruno, Ings, and Simicast for Jota, Ronaldo, and Livramento.
It depends on the severity of Firmino's injury. This move. I mean, Jota has some great fixtures coming up, but what I don't like is the fact that if apparently the news coming in today was that Firmino's injury might not be long term, and if it's just short term, then with him hanging around, I don't really like Jota as an option, and I'd rather much go for Torres rather. Other than that, I mean, I can't follow the moves. Livramento looks a great enabler. Ronaldo is Ronaldo, and Torres is a good pick as well.
I like how you said Torres, not Jota, because Jota does depend on the Firmino news, and until I see
Exactly.
something credible, I'm not just going to believe Twitter bait. Not
Exactly. More credible journalists have actually suggested that the injury isn't serious.
okay, so that's why we need to wait and see. It's not like a grade
Exactly.
3. He's not. He wouldn't have been walking off or running off as he was.
Yeah, like
If it was
somebody said he was going to be out for 3 or 4 months, which is
some people said
crazy.
6 months.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, like we'll wait
That's,
and see. Like maybe we'll see, but we got to know. I guess another question. So this is another FPL one before we have another content based one actually. So this is from Raja_FPL. He wanted to know, how does Harvey Elliott involve both Salah and Trent as FPL options? It'll be interesting to hear your take on this, but what I heard was some people said Trent looked really bad last game, and then FPL players were like, oh, he's playing that kind of centre mid role like Cancelo going up into the mid. So I don't know, like I
Exactly.
personally felt that he'd been doing that prior, right? Do you remember him
So
doing it
what's
towards the end
going?
of last year?
So what's happening is that with Elliot playing, um, Trent is drifting inside. He's playing more of an inverted fullback role, while Salah is playing slightly wider than usual, which isn't really good for his involvement. And if you see his numbers from open play, I think he's an XG of zero point 0.4 from open play in the past 2 games. But having said that, I mean, he did have that chance against Burnley where he was offside um, by by a very slim margin, and I mean, those are the kind of things which need a bigger sample size for me to base my recommendations on, and I don't think it makes sense to write either of those off as options just because Harvey Elliott is playing. I don't really think Harvey Elliott is going to be playing every fixture
He's
anyways,
playing ahead of
and the
Thiago at the moment, right? Like we don't know
and,
how
and
long
the
he's going to play.
exactly, and now Champions League is going to be a factor now, and Trent looked great. I mean, I don't think Trent looked poor. I think Trent looked great. In fact, if anything, Salah was the one who was slightly playing wider. Trent looked great. Trent has the highest amount of chances created this year by far. He's top of the charts for chances created. He's created 15 chances. Um, Created 7 against Burnley, in fact, and then I think he created 4 or 5 against Chelsea as well. So his numbers are very, very good.
I think
And he
it's
scored
interesting
against
that
Chelsea.
I think
We
it's
love that.
interesting that you mentioned Trent, because I know a lot of people are maybe on the wild card at the minute, and he seems to be one of these kind of trade offs where people are saying, "I want the 3 premiums. I'm going to go without Trent." But to me, at 7.5 million, Trent looks like a lot of value still.
I completely agree. This is why I am very, very iffy about the decision to wildcard. I like Trent as a long term placeholder in the squad. Um, even against Chelsea, I mean, this was supposed to be a tough fixture on paper. He could have easily had a couple of assists. He created that big chance for Henderson early on. If that had been converted, we could have been looking at a 9 or 10 pointer. He creates so many chances that he is likely to do well for bonus, like he did at the weekend as well. And the fact, that the fixtures for Liverpool over the next 3, they're decent. I mean, after Leeds, they have Crystal Palace, Brentford. They're good fixtures. I think it's a huge risk to get rid of him. And honestly, given the pedigree that he possesses, he's just so good. Like you're likely to bring him in later. So why are you booking a transfer in advance where you will want him for the long term? When I wildcard, I want a defense which is set in stone and which is set and forget. And I do not want to be wasting my transfer switching around the defense.
I love
Because
that. We
it,
saw people do that, and it's like you can do that. I did it last week 'cause that was only when I was going to burn a transfer. So I wouldn't normally do a defender transfer, and people are freeing up Trent in a hit this week. -4s for it.
Yeah,
It's
this is what
intense.
I'm saying. I mean, it's better to have a long-term defense, particularly in a season where you have so many premiums, where
Mhm.
clearly the play and the winner is likely to be the person who rotates the premiums perfectly and owns them at the right time. It's basically a game of owning the right premiums at the right time, because that's where the upside lies. The last thing you want is to be um, taking hits to bring Trent back in because your structure doesn't allow you to do so. So that's something you've got to bear in mind. And I honestly won't recommend it. I just think pick a long term team and pick a long term defense and go from there.
I don't
Yes.
know. I want to give this one to you, Hibbo. I think I forgot we were
Yes.
alternating. Yeah.
No, it's okay. So this is a question from a guy, FPL Dandy. So he's saying non-FPL related. What do you guys do in real life? Are y'all full-time content creators?
At the moment I'm not a full time content creator, but I mean FPL is a huge part of my life now, and there's no way I can sort of take out FPL from being a huge part of my life, because I just can't simply think of it uh, of a day in my life where I don't think about FPL or where I don't work for FPL. Every single day I'm either researching or writing. So for me to contemplate that is just out of bounds. It's just not possible. But yes, at the moment I'm a qualified management accountant. I'm working in an accountancy firm. Um, and I am a chartered accountancy finalist as well. So hopefully I'm studying for my finals. So I'm expecting to be done within a year or two with my studies, and maybe then I can sort of take a decision on my call to do FPL full time or not.
I think you should. I
That's,
think it's your
yeah,
call.
definitely. It's like
Hopefully.
where your heart lies. I know from our previous conversations over the past year from when we met. Like you've obviously been working full time, as you say, but it's kind of once you get the qualification, you're more likely to want to, I guess, pursue a career in FPL long term. And as we say, the master Fred creator, the originator, accepts no imitations. It's big man Bakar himself. So let's not forget, it's the
Thank you.
70K celebration show. So we've got a lot of live viewers. Some of them may have missed it. So we're going to pop the little dance on before the next question from Twitter, just because I said that I may even dance along this time. Let's see how we get on. Let's go.
Nima, you got some serious moves, man.
No, I learned from you, man. It's been a fun year on these WhatsApp calls, as we say. So I know Late Riser wants to know about your dating life, but he should be asking other questions. He doesn't know the right one. The right question is, what are we talking about on WhatsApp over the past year? Because we will always keep our sources to ourselves, as the Montana shirt would say.
Absolutely.
Hibbo, I guess I got that same question to you. So from Dandy, like I know the answer, but for the podcast listeners, like, do you do FPL full time or do you do the Freds Extra?
No, I work in local government, so it's not. It's very unexciting, but content. It's busy. You know yourself, like, and it's a sacrifice, I suppose, from your normal life because we're doing these YouTube shows. We're doing them once a week, but we did a lot of work in pre-season, and then writing, I suppose, is a commitment on top of that. So it feels like it's full time, but it's it's not full time.
It's like what Bakar said, right? Like, there isn't a day that goes by where we probably every waking moment we're not thinking about FPL. I think that's what we have in common, and that's why the three of us are here today.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
I guess I'll just give the answer as well very quickly. So I work as a kind of, I call it solution design. I'm a sales engineer in layman's terms. So I work at a software tech company. They recently raised a Series A investment round of $7 million to expand. So it's a software as a service for anyone who knows about SaaS. And I'm hoping to build my own team there. And it's looking good. I was the third or fourth employee. There's like 100 staff now. So I'll be there. I'll be working full time. But FPL is what I call the kind of the 5 to 9 job, which means like the 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. So like I still do it because it's my passion, it's my hobby, I love it, but I just kind of do it. Like there isn't really any major profit here. It's not going to sustain my life. And so I'm perfectly happy. I'm established in my profession. I'll keep doing that. And this season, I'm going to get back into the writing because so far I've just been doing the
Amazing.
YouTube in preseason, no writing. But you wait, that first article's coming because it was you and Salah, right? Who you guys inspired me to originally get into the writing. And when he came on the show, we spoke about the same thing. So thank you again for being a good mentor in the writing space. But
Means
no
a
one
lot,
can do
man.
what you do,
Pleasure.
man.
The talent to write is all yours.
I remember the first few times you messaged me, I was trying to ask you for positive feedback or what I could change, and it was always just, yeah, this is great. But there was never like you should change anything. You're always happy to see the real me. You like the authenticity. I know we're both very much like that. So
Exactly, and it's just that I get this from quite a few content creators, where they ask about what in ways to improve and etc. I usually like keeping it natural. It doesn't really make sense for me to sort of impose my own tastes on someone's writing styles, because I think whenever you're writing, it's always better for a writer to express himself the way he does it naturally, because that's when his best comes out.
Gabe is missing on the show. He would love that. We have a weekly philosophy segment, Bakar, and that feels like this is this week's version of it without him here. So you've done him a good service. You've covered on behalf of Hibbo and I, who didn't have much philosophical to say. I guess this is now back onto FPL. So this is a very interesting one. So Ronaldo's come in. We've already discussed about that. You said he feels like the best captain this week at home to Newcastle. Ignatius Brian L1 on Twitter's asked, is Lukaku a must-have if Martinez is away in Gameweek 4? And I think we've had that confirmation since this question that he will be quarantining. And I don't know about Konsa and Mings. They may be back by then, but equally, if all three are out, I was looking at a Lukaku captaincy because I was one of those in the camp of Ronaldo's going to be benched, but you guys are convincing me maybe it's time to jump on the Ronaldo boat.
Honestly, I think there's every chance that Lukaku could outscore Ronaldo in Game Week 4. I mean, I doubt that the significant majority of managers would overlook Ronaldo for Lukaku, even if Martinez and Mings are missing out, just because it's Ronaldo. So people are unlikely to overlook his home debut. But the fact that for me, what's important is that yes, both Ronaldo and Lukaku have an equally good fixture in Game Week 4, and you could argue in Game Week 5 Lukaku is Spurs, which you'd expect Chelsea to win, and even though it's an away fixture, I'd expect Lukaku to score there. United have West Ham away, which is equally as tricky these days. Game Week 6 is the clincher. So Lukaku has City in Game Week 6, and Ronaldo has Villa at home. So that's the differentiating factor, particularly for a lot of fancy managers who are looking to wildcard in 7. That's the clincher. The fixture for Ronaldo in 6. If you're wildcarding in 7, then that makes more sense because you get 2 plum home games out of Ronaldo as compared to just the one for Lukaku.
What do you think about Kane? Oh, sorry, go on. I just want to say, because you've mentioned both of those players and Kane's a similar price point, so I feel like it's only fair that Bakar gives the Kane input too, and then I'll let you go at him.
For me, I haven't been impressed by Spurs at all. I watched their game against Watford at the weekend, and they were very, very uninspiring. Didn't create much all game. Kane perhaps should have had an assist or maybe a goal at best, but overall they were uninspiring. They didn't create too many chances. Their numbers haven't looked that great either. So for me, I won't be investing in Kane at that price. I simply think there are far better options in Lukaku and Ronaldo to be had.
I like that. Go on, Hibbo. You had a question before.
Yeah, well, like my point really relates to kind of, I suppose, team structure and the price points within the team. And we've spoke previously about people talking, say, about the 3 premiums. So I'm assuming, say, Salah, Lukaku and Ronaldo, if they're maybe going to go that way. But I think the point that you've made there is, if you're only going to captain these guys maybe 33% of the time, then surely they represent bad value that you could be spreading elsewhere. Like if you went Lukaku, Ronaldo, Salah, you're only going to captain Lukaku once in 3 games. Like what's the point?
I agree. I agree. You know, the thing for me is that if I was wildcarding right now, if I had the choice of making a decision, I would honestly pick two premiums over three, because um, because of the fact that I believe that the combinations you get out of two premiums are far better, and it reduces the over reliance and the over dependence on your premium to perform every single week. When the third premium is unlikely to be your captain most weeks, so you're over relying on him to give you a big amount of points to make up for the sacrifices you've made elsewhere in your squad. This is why I don't like the strategy.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about like having Lukaku this week? So like, let's say I was firmly in the camp that Ronaldo is going to start from the bench, so I didn't have the same faith that he's going to start. I could this week, for instance, with 2 free transfers, turn Ings into Lukaku, and I could turn Bruno into kind of anyone. But I was looking at a few options. Jota, if we hear
It's
Firmino's out,
it's a
like,
perfectly
but what
valid
do you do then?
it's a perfectly valid strategy. It's just the fact that game week 6 is likely to be a problem. Salah has Brentford away, which Brentford are, they've been defensively all right. They've conceded just the two big chances, so that is not a fixture where I'd like to captain Salah. Game week 6, you need a captain, and that's where Ronaldo comes into the equation again, with Villa at home. So and that's a week when Lukaku has City. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's with Lukaku, you get one potential captaincy route in the next three fixtures. With Ronaldo, you get two. This is
But
why I
what if
think,
you
and in
sell him
give
to Ronaldo? So what if you start with Lukaku just for game week 4, and then you move on to Ronaldo? I know people don't like to pre-book transfers, but right now I'm ahead, as I was saying, right? So I'm at like
yeah, but then in
11K.
game week 7, you'd want Lukaku again.
Yeah, that's
But I could be
definitely
wild carding
the
by
way I'm
about game
going.
week. I see what you mean. I could be alternating so often. So do I? So that's my question then. So do I just stick with Lukaku, and instead of a Calvert Lewin, do I try to get the second striker too? So do I get Ronaldo and
Game week 6
Lukaku,
captaincy could be a huge
and
worry.
do I
If
forego Salah?
Game week 6 captaincy is the big worry. I mean, I get what you're saying, that you can just set and forget Lukaku in your team from now till basically, game week 12 or 13. But what will you do in game week 6? Who will you captain when Ronaldo will be captained by practically half the
Whole
world
game.
when he's
Uh,
exactly. That's a huge
But what if
risk.
you sell Lukaku to Ronaldo in that week again? So like, what if
But then
you're
you'd
saying
want
then you'll want to buy
Lukaku.
Lukaku back? Is that the problem?
Exactly. So that's booking in too many transfers. This is why I'm saying, the play is to get Ronaldo for the next three and then to sell him for Lukaku in 7.
I tend to agree, and you're kind of touching
Okay,
on a
that's
point there about,
interesting.
say, kind of DCL and people like that. I think there's strikers in and around that kind of 7.5 million and £8 million mark that are still going to score a lot of points and represent good value for the
Antonio,
price.
Antonio is a set and forget. Honestly, with his numbers, he's been an absolute beast. So we can just forget him regardless of the fixtures. West Ham, they're doing well. The fixtures are sort of getting worse, but I still think they're the kind of side which will continue scoring goals. And Antonio, I don't think he's going to stop scoring.
Remember one thing, I always said this: Antonio is basically a premium for stats in a budget price point. His
I wish
non-penalty XG
I
matches
wish
only.
you told this to me before I captained Bruno this week, Nima.
I'm telling you, like I've said it on you should have been watching that haul. That's on you, big man. Now you're a hauler, so you're part of the crew. We're gonna get you
Well,
back on. So we're on 80 viewers, so we really like this is a big moment. I think it's probably the most live viewers concurrently we've had. So Bakar, you're very, very well appreciated on the show tonight. And what
Thank
time
you.
is it for the current viewers?
Over here, it's 1:42 a.m.
See,
Jesus,
as you say, and it's not full
dedication.
time FPL either.
It's
I love
perfectly
it.
all right.
So on the same note, guys, if you could only choose one striker, who would it be, Bakar?
One striker. I think Antonio is a given now at his price. Honestly, I still think there's an argument to be made between Ronaldo and Lukaku, but Antonio is honestly a given, and I can't see why anyone would want to drop him in this kind of form.
Yeah, it would be crazy, wouldn't it? Do you I've got another question here actually. So this was about the plethora of premium options, even without an injured KDB. He was saying, will you take more hits this season? I guess we were actually saying we're trying to do the opposite, right? Regardless of the number of premium options available, we're trying to minimize the hits, not take more because there's premium options. You need to own them at the right time. Was that what you said? So it's not about taking
Exactly.
hits. It's about own all the premiums at the right time this season, captain the right one,
Exactly.
and that's what's going to win it this year.
Exactly. It's about giving yourself the structure which gives you the flexibility to rotate between the premiums. That's why I like having one premium mid. You can use that slot for Salah, De Bruyne, Bruno, Son, in case in case you need him, and the striker slot can be rotated between Lukaku, Ronaldo, Kane, depending on the fixtures.
I think that's beautiful. And as you say, that's 6 options, discounting De Bruyne maybe, and they're in midfield and attack, and you probably need players that are premium in both positions to cover them. And I guess to avoid hits, we would not be doing defender transfers, right? As we said. So our defenders,
Exactly.
we're looking for like 10 weeks
Exactly.
ahead, and we want to keep them season long.
And not just defenders. It also applies to the mid-price midfielders. For example, someone like Rafinha, you just throw him in and forget him in the
Yeah.
team.
So
You
it's
don't
the
you don't
price
want to
point
be
in any position. Yeah.
exactly. You
Unless they
just
get
forget
injured.
about him in that. Yeah, exactly. And then similar applies for Antonio. I mean, those are the picks which are supposed to be long term. And
What
if
do we
you
call them? The glue picks.
the glue picks, exactly. And if you are using your transfers to be fixing those areas, then you'll be in trouble, because then you won't be able to prioritize the other um, transfers which you could better utilize and make more efficient transfers in terms of upside.
I like that. Now I know why you said you're in between a patient manager and one who chases upside, because you take a bit more risk than me. Gabe, he will tell you he takes a lot of hits as well. I know Hibbo is probably more patient than Gabe. I'd say Hibbo is maybe most similar to you as a manager from that whole crew of all 4 of us. What do you think, Hibbo? Like, do you see a bit of Bakar in your style?
I can play the sensible game, but then every now and again I go a wee bit crazy.
That's basically me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
sometimes I'll make like a kind of illogical -4 to do something kind of aggressive, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
but it is what it is. Yeah. They're saying, so this is an important comment. So they're actually saying now, yeah, that they're worried about Antonio's hamstrings. And I wanted to actually say this earlier. So I saw an interview with him, and his interviews have been enlightening this season. So earlier in the year, in preseason, he did an interview with Ben Rama, and he said Benny's on fire. And I was like, that's good enough for me. Now he's done another interview where he goes, I don't
remember
feel
that.
any niggles. But now, Bakar, he's saying, I don't feel any niggles. I don't even feel my hamstring. He goes, I have realized in my older age, like, I'm going to eat clean. I've cut certain things from my diet and I don't feel no problems. And I was like, okay. Oh, wow. You're saying all I need to hear again, Antonio. So as you say, get rid of it at your own risk, because unless he gets injured, there is genuinely no reason to worry, because his past should not dictate his more mature self now. And sounds like he's got a healthy diet to make sure us FPL managers get rewarded all season long.
Exactly. And as long as he's fit and firing, I won't worry about anything.
He's playing one match during the international, wasn't he? He's playing against Panama.
Yep, he's playing just the 1 out of 3 fixtures. He's not playing in the rest red list countries.
I think he's only doing the 1 match, because 2 of the matches are places where he would have to quarantine. So I don't think he'll have to quarantine at least, which is good news.
That's correct.
Yeah, so we're in a good position with him. I'm going to ask 1 or 2 more questions from Twitter from before, but I think we'll then just go to the live show and we'll get questions from who's here now. So there's a few interesting ones. So this one from Bavesh, the only reason I'm going to bring this one up is just to ask, who's the best and defensive option from Chelsea?
I think at the moment, given the rotation with the fullbacks, I think Chilwell is going to come back in soon. Tuchel did say that Chilwell is likely to be fit soon. James is banned for a game, and he might be a risk with Champions League coming in. I think the most safest option is perhaps Rudiger. But I think I'd be looking at James in Wildcard 7. I think he's the one with the highest amount of upside. And he's not really an option this week because for Wildcard is because he's not playing. But Game week 7 he comes into play, in my opinion, because of the fixtures. And
No,
Hudson
I
Odoi is
see.
being linked with Leicester as well. So I mean that's something which is worth
Yeah,
keeping
let's
an
see
eye
how
on.
that unfolds. Like, chat, you guys tell
Exactly.
us. There's 2 hours and 10 minutes left till the end of the transfer window. We might keep Bakar here as a hostage till the transfer window shuts. We're on 60 likes. Help get us to the 70. I think 70 will be the most we've ever had live on air. We've probably hit 60 in the past once or twice, but I know Bakar's our most popular guest so far. So you'll definitely have to come back though, Bakar. I think the haulers here, they've not had enough of you yet.
Absolutely, absolutely. It would be my pleasure.
Great. So I think we may even do an episode where you and Pranil come together. So we'll let Pranil come and tell us his story, but eventually we'll get you both on at the same time. And I think that
For
crossover
sure.
episode will be great. And on that, I just want to say, like, as a reminder, actually, to everyone who is here now. So this is from Dar Bakar. We call him Dar. So it means father. Um, he feels like the father to me, Hibbo and Gabe, somehow. But, he's out there in Singapore, our good old dad. He's worried that I've taken over the StreamYard live stream license for today. I'm not going to swear as much as the last few episodes. I'm being behaved because you're here and I can't embarrass myself in front of you because there's a little clip. There's the FCA advert. And I just want to say, like, obviously also vote for the FPL Wire guys on the podcast category. But I'll just show you this quickly.
Hey everybody, Mariner here. Just to let you know that Net That Haul have been nominated in the Football Content Awards 2021 for Best in Fantasy Football / Video. It's quite an amazing feat for us because we've only been going since game week 20 of last season. And I think it's fair to describe our competition as pretty big and us as minnows if you're thinking about this as an FA Cup match. But there are giant killing acts and little old Net That Haul and our amazing haulers punch massively above our weight, don't we? So with a bit of help from you, who knows what we might achieve. So let's quickly walk through what and how to vote. Okay, so first of all, head across to the footballcontentawards.com/voting. And what you'll see within that page is, if you head down, you'll see the fantasy football section, which is about halfway down. You see the podcasts, you see the videos, you hit Net That Haul. And with respect to editorials, let's not forget our All About FPL friends who were also nominated as well. So what are you waiting for? Give us a vote, and thank you very much indeed.
So yeah, just before we go on, as I said, also for the podcast category, guys, vote for the FPL Wire for our friends Pranil and Bakar. And we're going to the last 1 or 2 questions. Yeah, no, you're welcome, man. You guys have been killing it. I think definitely your show over the last year, as you say, it's been insane and it's been a big growth. So we've been obviously emulating like your baby brother in the background, but you guys have really killed it and it's amazing to see the success. So congratulations to all of you.
Thank you very much for your kind words, Nima. Really means a lot.
No, of course, man. So we'll go to the FPL because I know a lot of the people here, they love our personal lives, but we won't give them any more of it. They've already found out what we do for a living today. So we got at Sarvesh_card. You also know if you could only pick one of Torres, Rafinha, and Greenwood, so all 3 players we've spoken about tonight so far, who would it be for you?
I would honestly pick all 3. I think I'm likely to have all 3 in my team in game week 5, in game week 4. Sorry. So it's a very tough one for me to answer. If I was picking one, then I'd probably go with Greenwood. I think he has the highest upside, and in terms of security, he should be safe. Given the fact that he scored so many goals, he scored in each of the fixtures so far.
Vital
and I can't see
goals
him.
as well, right?
Vital goals. Sancho looked a bit off the pace. Rashford doesn't look like he'll start playing immediately. I think Greenwood should be safe for the next 3 to 4 fixtures, and there is serious potential to be had. The fixtures are very, very good. You could argue that Ronaldo would hog most of the shots, but Greenwood is the kind of player who just needs one opportunity, and that's usually enough for him. So I'd probably go with Greenwood.
I think he'll learn a lot from playing alongside Ronaldo as opposed to on the bench. So it feels like a good time to make the most of that wage they're paying Ronaldo to mentor Greenwood in the same way Cavani has nurtured him.
Exactly. I'm actually very curious. to know your thoughts, both of you, regarding this question, because I think this is a very tricky one to answer.
I own Greenwood. I started the season with Greenwood. I want to own Rafinha from game week 5. I kind of regret not starting with Rafinha. Torres, I don't know if I'm completely sold, but he's a player that I might buy just to kind of be on the train, if you know what I mean. Because
Yeah.
if he hits and starts scoring points and everybody else is getting those points and I'm not, I'll not be happy. So even though I don't really believe in him, I think I'll buy him anyway. So maybe Torres this week, Rafinha from game week 5, and I already own Greenwood.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I own Greenwood like you, and so I don't think I can sell him based on what I've been seeing. Bruno's more on the chopping blocks than Greenwood for me because Bruno at least is the cash cow, so I can sell him on, and that can get me Ronaldo or Lukaku in up front for Ings. So that's an option. When I downgrade him, this is a great question because I can't downgrade him to Rafinha next week against Liverpool, so I won't be doing that. I want Rafinha, but it will be game week 5. Torres is a very appealing option. And Jota, who's not named here, if Firmino is really out, as long as they're saying, which we don't believe, which is like 3 to 6 months, then I would go for Jota, I think, across over all 3 of these. If the Firmino injury isn't as severe as being kind of misled in the community about, then I like Torres actually. I think he'd be someone I go to because I already own Greenwood, right? So Rafinha's are just a no-go for me this week, I would say. Long term, it's a reassessment. Just a similar question for you, Bakar. So FPL underscore Nitesh, she asked, who's the best midfielder 6 million or under? So I guess another price point below. So this might be your 4th mid rather than your 3rd mid. So similar to the last question, but
I
for a
think
different position.
the competition lies between Sar and Traore. I think I prefer Traore simply because of the fact that I refuse to believe with his numbers that he's never going to score, and I think a goal is coming sooner rather than later. And with those fixtures, I think those fixtures are worth targeting for Wolves.
No, that's pretty fair, I think. I'm just gonna go through a few last ones as quickly as we can before we go to the live chat. So people in the live chat, do start sending in your questions for when we go to the live Q&A. So we got King is Paul on Twitter. They're asking, should we move Ings to Jimenez? Obviously, there's a fixture swing for Wolves. You've talked about earlier that they're underperforming their stats significantly. You've also just talked about Traore scoring eventually. So it sounds like everything's going well for them in terms of they need to just now convert the chances. I'm selling Ings either way, and it's interesting to say Jimenez. What do you think about that?
I don't mind the idea. I think it makes a lot of sense. Villa have the worst XG non-penalty this season so far, and Ings, quite frankly, has been very very fortunate to score the points he has. So, in my opinion, Jimenez, I think, is worth getting in because I don't mind the move. I think he's going to be a differential as well. With Wolves fixtures, I think a haul is coming soon. I like that move.
Nice. So for me, I could do previously Ings and Tony in 2 free transfers to DCL and Jimenez, and then DCL rose, I think, and I was zero point 0.1 short. And now I've given up on DCL and I'm looking at Ronaldo or Lukaku. So things have moved on a lot since then, and that's one thing I will add. So unless you're on Wildcard, moving this early before some players play 3 international games, 1 international game, is just too early. It's just there's no point. Like you don't need to be moving this quickly.
No, and
And
I
a lot of
think
people have asked about the wild card tonight, so we will come to that when we go to the live views in a moment.
I just want to touch on something before we go on the live chat. And it was Nick Triggerlips made the point on, I think it was Twitter today, where he basically said that the transfer market's kind of being suppressed at the minute because everybody's moving to Ronaldo. It looks as if loads of players are potentially going to drop in price.
That's true.
Because
That's true.
like every kind of big player that you can get money on, even like the like of like a DCL. I know he's got a flag at the minute, but everybody's jumping off these players to get to your Ronaldo, which is kind of really strange. Like,
Exactly. You
And
look
he's
at
priced
Salah,
well.
he's on 3 red arrows. You look at Salah, he's on 3 red arrows. And all the budget enablers, they're flying in price. They have triple green arrows when it
No
comes
wonder you
to,
want all 3 of them in your team.
exactly. The whole market has gone absolutely nuts for Ronaldo, basically.
I heard a lot of wildcards have been activated from the FPL
Yep.
Statistics Twitter account. They were like, it's an abnormal amount. Since the arrival of Ronaldo, I think before we went live on air, he was getting close to 5% ownership, having only been added a few hours ago. I'm gonna go look for my own sake what percentage he's on now. Has he passed 5%? Let's have a little look, guys. He's on 6.2%. So he is rising at a rate where he only got released today. I know I really wanted Lukaku for that game week, but maybe you're right. Maybe I
Wow.
just get him later in game week 7 or 8, because I heard Triggerlips' show as well, and he was like, he made a few assumptions. He said, if Ronaldo is a forward, if he's 12.5, and if he starts against Newcastle. So far, 2 of those 3 have come true. He's 12.5, he's a forward. We don't know if he's going to start against Newcastle yet, but he's like, then he's the standout captaincy option of the week. He's got his ticket. I've got my ticket. It sounds like you've all got your tickets. I've been swayed on tonight's show while we're live that I think I would go Ronaldo over Lukaku as long as I'm confident he starts, and I'll monitor the games he plays for Portugal.
See this fixture, I just have like a kind of vibe. You know, it just feels to me like kind of Ronaldo homecoming, him kissing the badge and all this shit and sliding in the corner. And
I know another point I'd like to make here is that Newcastle have conceded a penalty in all of the games they've played so far, and that is likely to be a very, very important factor in game week 4 as well. If penalties come into play and Bruno isn't taking them, Ronaldo's gonna be on them, and that's gonna have a knock-on effect on Bruno as well.
I saw a guy on Twitter, he made a great point about the penalties where he said that previously Fernandes has been very kind of willing to give up penalties because he let Rashford had a penalty before. I think when he was on a hat-trick, maybe in the Europa League or something like that. So people were questioning whether Bruno's going to give them up, but I think he does give them up. I think he gives them to Ronaldo, surely, definitely.
I mean, Ronaldo takes them for Portugal. There's no way Ronaldo allows him to take them for Man United. Absolutely.
Remember what I said
no way.
earlier? Ronaldo is now the boss. Like, he's going to tell Ole what to do. That's why maybe he'll just tell him, you're going to play me.
Exactly. He's going to tell Ole what to do, let alone Bruno.
Yeah, exactly. That's we both know this. So on the name dropping scenes, one very funny thing, Bakar, and I'm so happy right now, is in that league you invited me to, I thought there was going to be hundreds of managers last season, so not even this season, with the Sheffield United guys, and I didn't win the tickets to go watch Sheffield, but for now, 3 weeks in, I think I'm top of the league, and I can see Saudi 49er, he's second, and it's a nice moment for me seeing the owner of Sheffield United just 1 point below me in FPL in a league. And there's only 10 of us, is there? Tell the show about this. How did you manage to organize this? Because I remember you messaged me last year and you were kind of like, there's a league just for a handful of my friends. Let's do this. And it was the Sheffield United owner. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I was approached to sponsor this league where he wanted me to arrange a select few group of managers, and we were very good friends at the point. So I thought, why not? Let's have fun.
I felt so honored at the time because I just lost my 25k followers. I'd gone from being quite famous in 3 weeks to like disappearing off the face of a cliff. As you know, for my social anxiety, that wasn't good. I was like, wow, I lost everyone. I remember you messaged me. You were like, do you still have the account? I was like, nope, the 30-day deactivation is gone. The account is deleted.
I wish you had that account. I mean, you witnessed crazy growth in a very short period of time, and if it would have been hilarious if you still had it. Honestly,
people love information.
Well, at least the
don't
shirt
they?
is here. But did you see what happened to me? Because the other day, yeah, I retired 2 years ago. The other day, I must have just said unlucky Barnes owners, who's first off the bench. Probably the most interactive tweet I've made since the old Scarface days, and I had no news. I just seen someone post on a Sam Martin tweet that like, oh yeah, like this guy's not playing. I just said, who you got on the bench? I lost like 20 followers straight away. People were like
really
commenting saying I muted you, and I was like, mate, I don't do team news. I don't know why you're following me. Those days are gone. I retired. I wouldn't have gone public with it if there was a risk to me or my sources. But as you know, it's a shame the account is gone because there used to be Premier League footballers in the DMs. They'd want to know, like, is Saka starting? And they were Tottenham players. It was good times, Bakar, as you know, and you saw it all.
Wow.
You're not giving away any names, are you?
No names, but I know that you knew, certain people knew. we finally come out, as they say.
Okay, let's keep this for backstage.
Yeah, now we keep it secret. The rest of it is behind the backstage at the end. So on to the live viewers, guys. We've got Astralicious is here, another friend of the show, just to say hi to him. There's a lot of people asking a lot of questions, but I think what we're going to move to now is live questions, guys. So
Yeah.
in the meantime, we're going to do the dance one more time till you get your questions in. We might even do the tumbleweed moment where I am humiliated by Tom Stevenson, Hall of Fame number 2. We'll start with your dance, though. Well, that, like I said, it's the celebration stream, the 70k, the 70k follows, impressive. Whatever growth I had, Bakar, it may have been like 25k in 3-4 weeks, but your kind of 15k last year to 70k this year without a leak, as you say, that's insane, because you must be the most talked about guy in the community, and your content is probably the best, right? Like, there was no Twitter threads before you, and I'm sure Hibbo will agree with me. Even when we started threading, it was probably a mimic of you, and except no imitations, Bakar, the original thread master.
I set up my Twitter account solely to kind of follow your threads.
Oh, really?
So like so at the start, I had like this burner kind of account, which I didn't call it Hibbo. It was just kind of like some kind of a mix of letters and numbers, just with notifications on your threads. Really,
I'm truly humbled to hear that, Hibbo. That really means a lot.
And then you became a writer, imagine. And for a while, like last season, you were getting like triple the click-throughs to your articles of any of us hub writers, and that included some serious veteran managers, right? Like, obviously, your writing. This is what I mean. Like, from a writing perspective, your eloquency is insane. Like, you write better than anyone I know. So it is mad, Hibbo, because I didn't know you started your account just to follow Bakar's notifications, and then now you're probably one of the best writers I know from a style point of view.
hoping to get back at it this week. First piece of the season, I think I'm going to put out early next week. I'm thinking we've been kind of busy.
Put the spotlight.
No, well, we've been busy with YouTube and stuff like that, and then now writing and kind of taking a back seat. I want to get back at it.
No, I can totally see why. So we've got a couple of questions have come in, but guys, put your questions in for Bakar. I'm gonna play now the embarrassing clip that I mentioned, the tumbleweed.
I think he's in the chat as well.
Oh, he's finally here. I've been trying to lure him out. I've played this clip 3 times to find Tom, but Tom, we're waiting for the next episode you come back. Maybe it will be a round table with Bakar and Pranil. Let's see. Maybe all 3 of you will be on the same episode. But for now, let's enjoy this. Definitely our most popular member of the Net That Whole crew, and you can definitely be our 5th crewmate now going forwards. Definitely be our 5th crewmate now going forwards.
Hello, darkness, my old
So, just while we're here as well, guys, so please do continue.
This is beyond hilarious. This is beyond hilarious.
This is amazing, right? So, like you have your dance video, I have my moment of fame as well.
You should have not edited it at the end. You should have let it as it actually unfolded. It would have been even more hilarious.
Maybe we make a second version, the director's cut, the original.
Yeah, please send it to me on WhatsApp. I'm really curious to see this.
I'll definitely sit there. So we're gonna hit some questions. We have some pretty interesting ones. So the first one is from Astralicious. Would you invest in Wolves, and which one?
I think all 3 of Semedo, Traore and Jimenez are good differences to own. It's hard to pinpoint one, but I mean, depending on whichever position you have a slot available for, I don't mind buying a Wolves guy.
No, I like that. We said their numbers, they speak for themselves. So I think Astralicious only, I don't know if he was here earlier, but we have talked about Wolves. So when you watch back on VOD, there's definitely a lot of Bakar's thoughts on their numbers. But for now, we're just going to do quick fire. So we're at 1 hour 29. This will be the shortest Compass show ever. The shortest before this, Bakar, I told you, was 1 hour 45. I promised you 1 hour and a half this time, but I reckon we've got 5 minutes of questions to go. So
absolutely, no worries.
We'll let it slip if that's okay with you.
Oh, absolutely. Let's go.
Cool. So we'll see what else is going on. So we got Nicholas Singh asking, what are your transfer thoughts for the week? So I guess for your own team, what are you looking at? And this might be a good time to actually pull up your team because I do have a screenshot of it that I haven't shared.
My transfer thoughts this week are fairly template. As I said earlier, Ronaldo captaincy is basically a priority for me to get in this week. So Ronaldo as a captain has to come in for Ings, and that would mean a Bruno Fernandes downgrade. I don't have two free transfers available, so the moves I make will be for a hit. So I leave myself open to the risk of the moves not paying off because it's a hit. But I think with Ronaldo's next few fixtures, the moves are likely to pay off in the long term, particularly when I consider and keep captaincy into play. So Ings out for Ronaldo, Bruno out for um, perhaps Ferran Torres or maybe Traore. I think Ferran Torres most probably.
No, that is interesting. Torres is on my eyes. I think the only reason I go Jota is a long-term Firmino injury, which we've not seen yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. There's a couple more interesting questions. So people are asking, so Anchor Sapper is asking, what's your opinion as Smith Rowe is a fourth mid option when the fixture swing happens? I know I've got my opinion on it. I think I've said before, I don't think he's an FPL asset. He's a great youth talent, and I'm an Arsenal fan. That's my opinion. What do you think?
I agree with you, Nima. I completely agree with you, particularly at a time when confidence is at an all-time low. I don't think I'd want an Arsenal player, particularly a midfielder, in my team playing week in week out. I think at that price for slightly more, you can get to Sarr, you can get to Traore, and I prefer those two.
Yeah, no, that's good. A similar question from Alden M. He says, do you expect, I guess on this side of things, the defense, do you expect Arsenal to get better defensively? So someone like me, I've got White. I didn't sell him when he dropped in price. I kept him on the bench. He's currently in my 11 for Norwich if he starts. I think he will. They're saying in game week 4 when maybe Partey, White, and Gabriel are all back, do you think they'll get better defensively?
I think so. Yes, I get the feeling that Arsenal will play better against the lesser sides as they do against the bigger teams. They tend to be a bit naive and they leave themselves open. But against the lesser teams, I think they'll play well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you as well. So put it this way, if they lose against Norwich, I already have heard murmurs that Edu is getting sacked either way. His association with Kia, the agent, the super agent, is Edu's own agent, is Willian's agent, is Cedric's agent, he's a Corinthians agent. It looks like there's a reason Wenger and Fergie didn't want to work with super agents. Once these agents get involved, and sadly Kia Gorbachian, he's a fellow Iranian. From what I heard, he fucked Arsenal Football Club. They hold you ransom. They give you their players, and Edu is the first novice at this club that needs to be sacked. From there, maybe that buys Arteta some time when Edu's sacked. I don't know yet, but there is some real rumblings happening at the club. It's embarrassing. Arsenal will get better, I think. You can't really be much worse than where we've been, as you say. Every club who's faced us has had the best stats of the whole season. So at some point, when the spine of the team is back, you've got to expect them to improve a little bit. Blue Nick's 99, I think this might be Nick. He asks, have you ever been beaten by a family member in a mini league, Bakar?
I don't think I have actually. I have lost to friends in my mini leagues with friends, but thankfully, um, the FPL managers who play FPL in my family are extremely casual, and if I ever end up losing to any of them, I would rather retire from the game. So I don't think that's likely to be the case soon. But yes, I have lost in my friends mini league, and I think I've lost twice actually. So
That's
that's
interesting.
actually great competition for me.
That is interesting. So we got Kev Loaf, the man I mentioned earlier, came third the year that you came fourth. What a crazy coincidence! Like I told him in the WhatsApp group for Hub that there's this stream tonight with Bakar, and out of nowhere, like we followed each other for the first time tonight on Twitter, so we're mutuals now. But I didn't even know about this, and he wants to know: do you have any questions for him, big man? When he finished a position ahead of you, but he also has a question for you afterwards, which is: do you ever enjoy FPL now? Any of the 5 or 6 seasons since? as much as you did then?
For me personally, I do. Yes, I for me every season is as enjoyable as the previous one, regardless of how I'm doing. I mean, obviously, when you're finishing, in the higher ranks, it's um, there's more sort of anticipation. There's more pressure on you, where you look at so many people looking at your team. But I experience that now with my team anyways, where I so many people are looking at my team. It gets discussed on the podcast every week. So that was the only thing that was different that year, that my team was getting scrutinized. But now that happens um, almost uh, almost every other week. So I don't think there's much difference, and I enjoyed the game as much as I used to that season.
Do you have any questions for Kev before we move on?
I'd like to get in touch with him actually. Just have a
You did ask me
have a
for his
good
handle earlier, I remember.
exactly. Let's get in touch and discuss and relive some of the memories of that beautiful season.
It'll be good times. We'll let Hibbo alternate now.
Yeah, so just a quick question here from Donny, FPL. He's a regular watcher of the show, and he's asking, Big Man, so what do you do to deal with a bad game week score?
Um, this is actually an interesting one for me to answer. This, when I wasn't sort of writing articles and contributing publicly to FPL like I am doing right now, I found it far easier to cope with a bad game week. I just sort of used to switch off after Sunday. Uh, if need be, I'd make my transfer straight away. If not, I'd just forget about my moves till Friday and come back and think about it, the last day before the deadline. And by the time I'm uh, Friday arrives, I have a clean slate and I think about my team with a fresh state of mind. Now, with my FPL work, I don't think that is possible. And given that I'm constantly thinking about FPL, um, it's very hard for me to do so. But then again, I mean, I've sort of it's gotten to the point now where I've sort of developed this habit of learning how to deal with poor weeks, and whenever they come, I'm very sort of quick to get them out of my system, and I like on focusing on the future.
I'm kind of similar. Like, I would just move towards setting up my team for the next week and looking at my transfers for the next week, because you can't really change what's been and gone or what's past, so.
Exactly.
I
Do you
think
want
just
to?
on a note
Yeah,
from
go ahead.
earlier, so Kev was saying definitely that you guys can relive that season. I think he's looking forward to that chat about that season when you both
Absolutely.
came top 10. What a coincidence. Like, I don't know anyone else who came top 10 apart from Joshua Bull. Obviously, he won, as we know, but outside of him, you're the highest ranked finisher I know in the game.
Sorry, I missed your question,
I
Nima.
was
What
saying
was it?
no question. I was saying you're the highest ranked finisher I know in the game, apart from Josh, who came first. We met him that same year, and then the third year, obviously now we're hearing Kev came third, you came fourth. I know 3 people who finished in the top 10, and you three of them. That's crazy. Two, like Kev, we didn't know about till tonight, but what a pleasure.
Thanks, man. It really means a lot that you think so highly of my content, my rank. It really means a lot.
People say you've had obviously like great finishes over the last 10 years, but we've always enjoyed picking each other's brains, right? So I think I saw something you said earlier. You don't put your team out publicly to ask for help, right? Like we play our own game. And I guess what I want to say to everyone in the live chat is a lot of the time I see people asking others, what should I do with my team? And it's similar to what you said about writing style. I don't want to impose on your FPL management style. So tell me what you're thinking of doing, and I'll give you my opinion on those choices. But asking me what I would
Exactly.
do in your shoes, there's no point because I would
Exactly.
act differently to you.
More often than not, when you post for even if you post your team after the deadline, I mean, you get a lot of people criticizing the moves you make. I mean, that's because everyone is a different you know everyone is a different manager, and everyone likes to think differently. This is perfectly fine, because um, people sort of think that there could have been better possible alternatives to the moves you're making. For example, there are a lot of people wildcarding this week, and you're getting all sort of opinions on Twitter. People are getting
People
bashed
are
for it.
against it. I'm like, why do they care what these people are doing? Like,
Exactly. I mean, there are some people who are against it, but I have seen teams which have been completely decimated by the end of game week 3, and it completely makes sense for them to do it. So I mean, to each to their own. I mean, that's why I do my own transfers myself, and I don't usually put them out there in the open and ask for help, because I think I want to play my own game, and I don't want to let anyone else influence my own decisions.
I
Yeah, that's
like that.
fair.
Yeah, no, that is good stuff. We're gonna just ask for one or two more things from me and Hibbo, and then we'll wrap up. We'll go off air. So I
Sure.
feel like we kept you as long as we said we would, but I want to somehow make this the shortest episode ever, because I know that sometimes being concise is important, and today we will do it because it's insane o'clock in Pakistan, and you've done us a great honor being here. So as much as you're happy about my compliments about the rank and the writing, I don't know how you're here at this time of the night, because you're doing us a major
Don't worry.
service being here.
Don't worry. I'm usually up till late. That's perfectly all right.
I remember what I told you before the show. I told the viewers, I sent you a WhatsApp a few hours before, and I was kind of like, Bakar, make sure there's an alarm. I was worried, wasn't I?
No, yeah, you were. But I mean, even when we speak on WhatsApp, you would have noticed that usually this is the time when we converse. So be rest assured, even if I'm coming on the next time, I'll be on. Don't worry.
Well, we're gonna have to get you and Pranil on, and I can't promise I can prevent him asking about the dating life, because once he's here, as you said, you're now here. You're stuck in front of the
Yes.
screen.
He's
There's no
responsible
escape.
for his own actions.
I
Yeah,
think
he
he's.
exactly.
I think we have a bit of an unhealthy obsession with your dating life, if I'm honest. It's bordering on voyeurism.
There is this
Voyeurism.
thing in our culture in India and Pakistan that by the time a guy graduates by the age of 25, 26, he starts earning. So the first thing that the family wants is the guy to get married, and they want him to get hitched. So it's a bit I can completely see why it's unusual for you, because it's something which is part of our culture. Even right now, when I go to a wedding or meet some of my relatives, the first thing they ask me is when are you getting married? So this is completely normal over here. This is
Crazy.
exactly how people think over here. It's just in the culture.
People here don't really get married until they're in their early 30s, maybe.
Exactly. Here
Well,
it's
I
it's
was
different. As
31.
as
Yeah.
soon as people know that you're earning, the next thing they want is for you to get hitched, basically.
So first is, do you have a job? When are you getting married? When are you having kids? When are you having the next kid? That's like I've
Exactly.
started to notice
Yeah.
it. Like, we
Yeah,
were
yeah.
engaged for a
It's
long
actually right.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are the
Once you
But
have a
questions,
job,
man.
then,
exactly.
big man, you're like the biggest content creator in FPL. You have your pick of woman in Pakistan now.
I mean, yeah, you're right.
But you're
But
coming to
let's see.
London, right? Let's tell Hibbo the news. Not yet, but one day I'm sure we'll be
I'll
there
share my
together.
chip. I'll share my chip strategies with you in person.
Yeah, we didn't talk about chip strategies today, but when you're next here, we'll go for an afternoon tea. I'll get the cocktail version. We'll let you get the real tea. They got the nice chai, and we're gonna have a good time, as you say. I know you're a Harrods boy
Absolutely.
like me, Knightsbridge. We're living that life.
Exactly.
Okay, so guys, I'm gonna one more time before we go, just because it's been incredible watching this clip. I'm just so glad you gave me permission to show it. I wasn't sure if you would want us to show it, but one more time, we're gonna do the dance, and I'm definitely gonna enjoy this. We're gonna see it off. We're gonna stay on backstage after for a bit to talk secrets, as we said. But thank you, everyone. If you like the show, please do hit like, hit subscribe. Remember to vote for both FPL Wire in the podcast category and Net That Haul in the video category. and all about FPL and editorial for the Football Content Awards. There is the link in the video on YouTube and the audio description and podcast. For now, we're going to love you and leave you. We're going to do a little dance, and then we're going to get out of here.